I guess yesterday was a good day. I didn't even have to use my AK. And it's supposed to be a black hat, but a black hat wasn't handy, so I had to try it with a red hat. It's just not the same. But all I know is that was Ice Cube. And I should have said, I guess it was a good day. I didn't have to use my AK, and I didn't have to act in a movie with a duck. So, when he went from, I think, a founding member of was it NWA, to acting in a movie with a duck, or being in kids' movies. So, figured that career arc out. That's a movie I recommend. Is the was it Niggers with Attitude? Am I allowed to say that word? Will I be banned now? I figure that once you're as albino as I am, you should be exempt from uh, restrictions on language. I should get the albino uh, pass card instead of the ghetto pass card to use that word. But I think isn't that what NWA stands for? Niggers with Attitude. I think that's what they called them back then too. They didn't invent like this nigga loophole. You know, it's so nice being nobody. You can say whatever you want to say. I don't have to parse every damn word I say. Love it. When you're poor and dispossessed, nobody, say whatever the hell you want because they can't take nothing away from you. Here, you want it? It's nothing. But no, I don't have a headache anymore, which was cool. I had a headache for, Christ, um, 40 hours straight. So that feels pretty good. Yesterday, I just walked in the house for about 30 minutes with the cane, and I lifted weights, which went better than the last time I did, and I wasn't scared, so that was good. The appointment I was supposed to have with the guy that's going to help me move, he canceled it and changed it to Friday, but I told him I'll have $1,500 in the house, and I told him something else that happened, you know, to try to help my cause, which was a very odd thing, is I keep my window open that's attached to the porch, and it's open right now, because I don't like ringing the bell to get the cat to come in, because guess what? Other cats come in. So there's this gray and white cat that comes in. He's real fat. I don't even know that cat. I feed him outside. The one cat that I used to feed outside, he died. And then there's this other cat I used to feed outside. Uh, haven't seen him around, so mainly it's the gray and white cat that I'm feeding. But I used to just put food out there for cat I used to call OCD, which I haven't seen him for a couple of months. And my cat, because I kind of considered OCD my cat. I mean, he lived in the house until he became such a bad housemate that I had to excommunicate him. And then, my cat, Darkness. So I really only had the two cats. Um, but anyways, back to the thrust of the story is I leave the window open, right? And so right by the window, there's one of those papers that have stamps on the front, and it appears that the one guy that lives upstairs that wrote something on it, like reached in my window took it out, wrote something on it, and then put it back in the window. So what he wrote was, why would I write this to myself and it's not my handwriting, and why would I write it on the back of a paper that has stamps connected to it? But it says friends, and that first F is real shaky, like DT shaky. And we did one try with the F, and then he steadied his hand, and then he got it right, and he wrote friends, so there's two F's. And my date of birth, and my name, Stephen. I don't never refer to myself as Stephen. I'm Steve. That's right. My given name is Stephen. Steven. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what the fuck is this about? And I'm looking at the handwriting, and I'm like, I didn't write this. Why would I write friends to myself? So I told the guy texted me, he's like, how about Friday? I didn't say he couldn't make it today, but he's like, how about Friday? And I'm like, okay. And I told him the story of that, He's like, what the hell? And what did he write? He said, damn, what the fuck? And I said, dude's crazy. I can't wait to get keys in my hands to get out of here or whatever. So I kind of tried to use it to, fabricate a sense of urgency, an even greater sense of urgency of getting out of here. So, anyways, plus my aid worker. See, my aid worker was supposed to come at 1:30 and leave at 3:30. He was supposed to come at 3 o'clock. So my aid worker shows up 40 fucking minutes late, which I'm just sitting there. I almost called her office. I didn't want to get her in trouble or anything, but I almost called her office. And, it was like, somebody did I not get a memo? Am I just sitting here waiting for, she's going to come at 3 or something? I mean, what's going on? So that put a little added stress on me because I wanted to have a good appointment with the guy that's going to help me move. But like I said, I told him I'm going to have $1,500 if he wants to set something up. Because when I moved in here, before I referred to him as Slim Shady, since I watched the M documentary. Yeah, I like to explore different worlds. So I watched the M documentary. And recently, so I referred to the landlord that owns the place as Slim Shady. And I said, well, before Slim Shady bought the building, I actually just walked in and stood at a counter in this place in, I forget the name of the town. It's too early. I want to say Urbanville. That don't sound right. Urban Town? I don't know. But it's way the hell north of here. But that's the realty company that was operating this building at the time. And so I walked into their office, and I just stood at the counter. And he did a criminal check, credit check, and then I gave him some money. And then he gave me the keys. So I said, in the text I wrote the guy yesterday, I said, I got that money in the house if you want to set up an appointment. Because when I moved into here, before Slim Shady bought the building, it was one-stop shopping. And I described what I just described to you as I stood at the counter, and they just used the computer to check my records and to see if I was a felon or not, and see who I was. And then I gave money, they gave me a key. So, so things are alright. I mean, I never feel good, but I don't have no damn headache, so maybe I can, I woke up kind of late, for me. I woke up at 8 o'clock yesterday because I couldn't go to sleep until 2:30 in the morning. But I don't know what the time I went to sleep, but it was well before midnight, and then I woke up at about 6:15. So I woke up kind of late for me, and I haven't been awake very long. Um, yeah, I'll probably be able to work on. It depends on how my nerves are after I take my walk, but I'll probably be able to work on my audiobook. I don't know if I'll finish it today or it's only gonna. It's not that much left on it, but like I said, it's just part three of a novel that's actually part one of a larger novel. So, because what I wrote was I took one novel about the Blackfeet Indians. I took another novel that um, pretty much defies description. I would call it Three Faces of Steve as a joke off of that old movie that was a forerunner to Sybil about multiple personalities. Um, that's not what it's titled. It's titled Copy Number 13. But, I don't like to get too cute. But, anyways, uh, yeah, I don't know how to describe that, but, you know, that's a joke. Uh, Three Faces of Steve off of Three Faces of Eve, which was the first multiple personality movie. So, and then there's a middle piece that's like, it's not long enough to be a novella, but it's a pretty long short story. So it's all sandwiched together, and it all fits. And it's called, the whole thing's called 3 divided by 1 equals 0, because I thought at the time, like, nobody ever wrote a novel that had a numerical equation, an erroneous numerical equation, as a title, because there's three parts to it. 3 divided by 0 equals 1. So I thought that would stand out on the shelves, because I had a picture of myself going into a library, um, you know, and looking for books, and I never saw one that was a numerical equation for the title of a book. So, um, anyways, that was my thinking back then when people used libraries and stuff, because I wrote it 22 years ago. So now it's just a weird title for a book, but I don't want to get into it. I actually researched it. I don't want to get into it, but you can't. I think it's considered an improper mathematical uh, equation to divide anything by 0. You divide something by 0, you end up with an infinite number. So the equation is true and false at the same time. It's a contradiction, which is ideal for the novel itself. Um, because in the real world, if something is divided by nothing, it's one thing. But in the mathematic world, dividing by 0, you get an infinite number, or it's just considered you just don't do it. You don't divide by 0. So, um, yeah. The answer to it is either 1 or uh, everything. Everything is 1. It's kind of a tricky thing. But anyways, what I'm working on is just one about 3-hour part of that larger work, which I have never recorded before, and I just wrote it to write it. So, but the part that I'm working on now, it has like it's about the Blackfeet tribe, and since I'm talking about it, and it's like 14 minutes in here, I might as well say that it's a bit intense. It came from me, and if you know me, I have a violent history, and I grew up around violent people. So there's violence in it. So, you know, just be warned. It's not necessarily pleasant. But actually, because it's the third part of the book, the real unpleasantness occurred earlier in the novel. But there's some fairly um, horrific imagery in what I'm going to put up in a few days. But yeah, there was one part I could not help but be. I can't help it sometimes, but I couldn't help but to pull the Three Faces of Steve, the cutesy thing, because I had a homosexual Indian in it named Gopher Boy. Now, they just had weird names, like I've said before. They actually had a shaman in the Blackfeet tribe that was named Stares at the Bull's Penis. You know, one of the most famous Blackfeet of all time was named Crowfoot. You know, they just had these cool names. So I called this gay guy Gopher Boy because there was that rumor going around that was big at the time when I wrote it that Richard Gere stuffed a gerbil up his ass for his entertainment. So I called him Gopher Boy because it was close to the gerbil thing, and I just couldn't help it. It just was funny, and it was natural. You know, it's kind of a natural thing, but that's why I call him that, and it's a bit, you know. Like nowadays, people are so weird and politically correct. Uh, they would call that part of the book homophobic or whatever. Um, but anyways, that's just the way it came out. I don't get it. When you write, you don't. The worst thing you can do is get in the way of yourself and be like, what will people think about this while you're writing? No, you just sit down, you get out of the way. That's the main thing about writing, is you get the hell out of the way and let the story write itself. You start being a control freak, you're going to come up with garbage. And you start thinking stuff like that, like, I don't know if people are going to like this, you know, or you don't do that. You don't do none of that shit. But I'm not really a writer anymore. That was years ago. I was a writer for about 4 years. I would say from I think 1997, 98 to 2001, 2002. Then I was like, I had enough of that. I'm going to go find a significant other. And then, you know, I'm going to lay off writing for a while. All I do is write. I'll lay off writing for a while, and, well, you see how that turned out. But, anyways, so today, that's the plan. I don't have a headache. I'm hungry as hell. Um, but that's, uh, I did, yeah, I knew I wasn't getting, you know, once I send my aide worker out shopping, I don't blame her at all, but she makes sure that she takes up her full-time shopping, you know. So, uh, I don't think it takes 2 hours to go to the bank, drop off an envelope in a government mailbox, and get like 10 things at the grocery store. I don't think that takes 2 hours, but she made sure it take 2 hours. So, probably have to, like, I could, it's just, I don't blame her, but you know, probably sitting in a car somewhere. There's no way that takes 2 hours to do that. I mean, no way. It would take me like a half an hour to do that on an electric bike. When I was able to ride an electric bike, I mean, I would go to the grocery store and get that shit and come back up on an electric bike, and it would take me like a half an hour. Because the store is real close to here, relatively speaking. And yeah, so anyways, point is, I got food in the house. I've been, you know, that was a good lifestyle change, just getting omelets, or just like cooking omelets. And um, yeah, it's weird how like small little things help, but small little things do help. And yeah, I hadn't cooked for like a very long time, but it's like, yeah, man does not live off of meals on wheels, meals alone. They start to get they're pretty tiresome. But anyways, yeah, that's about all I got to say. I'm not sure how much sense I made. That's 20 minutes. Because I just woke up. And, like I said, at least I don't have a headache, so I'll be able to get something accomplished today. And I'll put my violent um, Blackfeet Native American book uh, up in a few days. It'll be done. And if you can stomach a little violence, you might like it. You might not. Don't really matter to me. I already put the whole book up before and didn't. I had one guy call me insane. That was about the best response I got for it. Nobody really listened to it at all. That was before, you know, the Benzo thing. I don't remember. I tried to even find the files, but yeah. I mean, part of the book, the beginning part of the book is like an hour of it is on pork frog. It's on one pork frog one, which I don't know how to take that account down. You know, it has some weird shit on it from I don't know how long ago. But I had the idea of putting it on YouTube for a long time, but you know, reading as well as I do, uh, like it didn't work out. But there's video on there with socks on my hands, which before this place changed, and the other guy bought the building and put the thermostat in the guy in the wheelchair. I'm just saying, it's real hot in here now. I don't have to put socks on my hands, and my symptoms changed as far as the CRPS. But yeah, there's a video of me very angry, with socks on my hands. It's got like 1,000 plus. I don't know how many. I haven't checked in on it on that account for a while, but it's one pork frog one. It has the beginning part of the book. It's chopped up into 4 sections. I don't like the whole chapter thing, so I don't believe in chapters. So that was section 1. Section 2 isn't anywhere to be found, and then this would be section 3. Section 4 is the longest section of the novel. But like I said, I read the thing and I put the whole thing up. And I don't know where those files are. But I remember it was funny because I read the book, and then I was going to do a red Auerbach imitation and smoke a cigar, because I was still smoking at the time, at the end of it. And I had a lighter that didn't work. I was like, yeah, this is pure me right here. So, you know, finished my book, finished reading it, and then I was like, let a pause, like a shared moment or whatever, and then I slowly take out a cigar and I unwrap it, you know, and I go to light it, and I'm like, and it won't work. I just throw it across. I start laughing and I throw it across the room and smack it into the wall. And I said, yeah, that figures that. And then I said, hold on a minute. And I went and I get up and I get a lighter and I light the cigar. So I did that a long time ago. But I got zero response to it, except for I used to argue against, well, just argue in general, but I used to debate for like years, and I would piss people off because people don't like to lose, and if you debate me, you're most likely going to lose. So this guy was pissed off, and he did a little bit of cyber stalking, and you know, that's one of the few responses I got to the novel was the guy said, "Oh my God, you're clinically insane. because I was reading a novel, and I thought it would be interesting to see somebody read their work, and apparently it's not, unless you're Neil Gaiman, and then it's interesting. So, or maybe the read wasn't that good, or the book's not that good. I don't know. I like the book, but it's hard to be subjective. Everybody thinks their babies are cute. Anyways, that's enough. I'm in a very rambling type of mood because it's very good to wake up without a headache. So, yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Hope you have a good day. And I guess I need to, one of the things I need to do today is shave. Goodbye.